The first time he called himself an alpha, she laughed. It was one of those half-drunken stories she brought home from work, dropped into the middle of our living room like a random souvenir. The rain was floating against the windows in thin diagonal lines that night, the city outside blurred under the streetlights. She stood in the doorway, kicking off her heels, cheeks flushed from wine and office gossip. Apparently, she said, mimicking a deep voice, he's the alpha in the room. Can you imagine? She rolled her eyes and went to the kitchen. The smell of wet asphalt drifted in through the cracked window, mixing with the leftover coffee still sitting cold in the pot. I smiled from the couch, half listening, half scrolling through my phone. Who? I asked, not looking up yet. This new guy, she called back. Consultant, walks in, says he'll fix the whole department. You'd hate him. I chuckled. Sounds like a clown. She laughed again from the kitchen, a soft, easy sound that had once been my favorite thing about coming home. If you told me then that 1 year later, I'd be standing across from that same man while he knelt on my living room floor, begging for mercy, I would have told you were insane. Back then it was just another Tuesday night. We drifted into a routine so quietly, it almost felt like sleepwalking. Mornings started with alarms and coffee, barely any words. She'd sit at the small dining table with her laptop open, hair tied back, blue light reflecting in her eyes. I'd stand at the counter, pouring coffee into travel mugs. 2 steps apart, 4 feet away, living completely different days that never fully met. Meeting at 9, she'd murmur. Site visit at 10, I'd reply. We'd kiss each other's cheeks. It felt like signing a document more than being in love. Distance never explodes, it erodes. It started with little things, her phone always face down, her telling me she was tired when I asked about her day. The way she would pause before responding, like every answer was a calculation. One evening I made dinner. Nothing fancy, pasta, garlic bread, a jar of sauce I tried to dress up with basil and too much pepper. The apartment smelled like garlic and rain. The city hummed outside, cars passing, someone shouting faintly on the street below. I set the table, lit the small candle we kept in the middle for ambience and never used. Her text came 15 minutes after she was supposed to be home. Running late, big project, don't wait up, love you. I stared at the words love you longer than I needed to. They didn't land right. They felt like a postscript, an autocomplete. I waited anyway. The pasta clumped. The candle burned low. The rain turned to a steady, punctuated tapping against the glass. The apartment, with its soft lamp light and empty chairs, suddenly felt larger than it had any right to be. Her key turned in the lock at almost 11. She came in smelling like someone else's cologne and rain. Hey, she said softly, surprised to see the table still set, the cold pasta in the pot, the untouched candles. You ate, she asked. Didn't feel like it, I said. She smiled apologetically, that half-tilt of her head. I'm sorry. That consultant, remember the alpha guy? He kept us all in the conference room till 10. I'm dead. She moved past me, kissed my cheek. It was quick, almost guilty. The word alpha stuck under my skin like a splinter. I watched her walk to the bedroom, heels in hand, shoulders slightly hunched. The smell of someone else's cologne lingered behind her, faint but there. His cologne is strong, I said before I could stop myself. She paused. Just for a fraction of a second. They overdo it, she said lightly. If you ever come to the office, you'll suffocate. She kept walking, that tiny pause before she answered. That was the first crack. I just didn't know how wide it would get. The weeks blurred, more late nights, more big projects. Her laughter in the kitchen when she texted someone, thumbs flying, then screen turned face down when she caught me looking. Our dinners turned into solo meals for me and leftovers in containers for her. I told myself it was stress. Jobs are hard, people change, love grows quiet. Everyone online talked about seasonal depression and burnout. It was easy to blame anything else, everything else, until the silence got too loud. One night I woke up at 2:37 a.m. to the glow of her phone. The apartment was dark, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The rain had stopped, the city felt wrapped in cotton. She lay beside me, her back turned, the faint light of her phone screen illuminating her hand. She was texting. Her fingers moved quickly, then paused, then typed again. Her breathing had that shallow, focused rhythm she had when working on something important. Babe, I whispered. She jolted slightly, locked the phone. The glow vanished. Couldn't sleep, she said without turning around. Just checking the time. You were typing. Silence. It was nothing. Go back to sleep, she murmured. Her voice was soft, but it was also tired, defensive, like she was holding a door shut with her shoulder. The emptiness in my chest widened. The next day I thought about confronting her. Instead, I went to work, came home, washed the dishes, scrolled through social media on the couch while the TV played something neither of us watched. She sat on the opposite end of the couch, legs tucked under her, phone in hand, eyes lit by someone else's words. The distance between us felt wider than the room. I noticed more things, her new perfume. The way she changed her lock screen, the sudden interest in going to the gym alone, the way she started wearing lingerie again, but not with me. The second big crack came on a Sunday afternoon. She said she had to go run errands. It was raining again, that soft, steady kind of rain that paints everything gray. She grabbed her umbrella, kissed me on the forehead, and left. I sat with the TV remote in my hand for 10 minutes before something in me just snapped into curiosity. Not rage, not suspicion, just a quiet, tired curiosity. I opened her laptop. We didn't have secrets. At least we used to not have secrets. Her password was my birthday, still was, mail, work documents, calendar, then messages. A chat window sat open from earlier in the day. The name at the top made my stomach go hollow. Ethan Consultant. I clicked it, the history loaded in small, neat text bubbles. Weeks, months, starting with harmless jokes, meeting complaints, office gossip. Then, you looked incredible in that dress today. I keep thinking about last night. He doesn't know, does he? I told you he's passive. He won't suspect a thing, he trusts me too much. Passive, the word hit me harder than anything else. There were photos, blurry mirror selfies from hotel rooms, screenshots of their inside jokes, plans, late-night confessions. His voice, even through text, radiated arrogance. I'm the alpha, I take what I want, he'd written once, and she had sent a laughing emoji then, you're impossible. The sound in the apartment changed. It was still the same room. Same couch, same rug, same small coffee ring on the table where she'd once scolded me for not using a coaster. But now, the silence had weight, the air felt heavier, my hands shook over the mouse. There's a strange moment when you realize your life has already changed and you're just catching up to it. Like realizing a bridge you've been walking on collapsed miles back and somehow you're still moving in midair. I didn't shout. I didn't cry, I just closed the laptop. Her coffee mug sat on the table, a faint ring of brown at the bottom, her scent still hung in the air. Outside, a car passed, its tires hissing on the wet road. Somewhere upstairs, a door closed. I sat there for a long time, minutes, hours, time blurred. When I finally looked up, the rain had grown heavier, pounding against the windows, turning the city into streaks of light and shadow. The candle from that pasta night sat unlit where I'd left it. I picked it up, turned it between my fingers. Then her key turned in the lock, the door opened, her footsteps entered, familiar, soft, the sound of home once. Hey, she called. You're still in your... She stopped when she saw me, the laptop, the way I was holding the candle like it was some kind of anchor. Her grocery bag hung from her wrist, a carton of milk, some vegetables, a box of cereal. Normal things for a normal day in a life that was no longer ours. Her face went pale. Did you? Her voice barely made it across the room. I looked at her, really looked. The woman I loved standing in the doorway of the life she had quietly stepped out of. Who's the alpha now? I asked softly. The words came out calm, too calm. Her mouth opened, closed. The bag slipped from her fingers. The carton hit the floor, milk exploding out, spreading slowly over the tiles like something wounded. We just stared at each other, the sound of the rain filling the space between us. And in that quiet, collapsing moment, the only thing louder than the storm outside was the sound of something breaking inside both of us. After the milk hit the floor, neither of us moved to clean it up. It spread in a crooked white river between us, soaking into the mat by the door, creeping toward my socks. The smell of it, cold and sour-sweet, mingled with the damp air and the faint trace of her perfume. She stepped around it slowly like it might burn her if she touched it. Please, she whispered, let me explain. The thing about explanations is that they always arrive late. The damage comes first. How long? I asked. My voice sounded like it came from down the hall, from another room, another man. She swallowed. Her eyes were wide, shining, but not yet with tears. There was still that last thin layer of denial over them, like frost. Can we sit? She asked. I looked at the couch. The same couch where we'd watched movies, eaten takeout, fallen asleep tangled together. The same couch where, apparently, she'd sat texting him, laughing at messages I would never see. No, I said quietly, her shoulders tensed. A few months, she said. That sentence had the weight of a confession rehearsed in her head. I stared at her. A few, how many? She looked down at the spreading milk. 6 months. Half a year of late nights, turned phones, cologne she didn't wear when she was with me. 6 months of a parallel life, running under the floorboards of our home like secret wiring. The refrigerator hummed. A car honked distantly. You called me passive, I said. Her eyes snapped up to mine. What? In your messages to him, you said I was passive, that I'd never suspect a thing because I trusted you too much. The words tasted like metal in my mouth. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. A tear finally slipped free, tracing down her cheek. I was hurt, she said weakly. I was angry at you, at us. It wasn't fair. I trusted you, I said, more to myself than to her. She took a cautious step closer. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm so sorry. It was a mistake, it was. People don't mistake their way into hotel rooms, I cut in. Silence settled between us like dust, her hands shook. She wiped her face quickly like she was afraid crying would sabotage her argument. He made me feel seen, she said finally. The words hit me in a different way, not like a punch but like a slow, deep bruise. I felt invisible here, she continued, words tumbling now, desperate. You were always tired, always somewhere else in your head. We stopped touching. We stopped talking. I tried to tell you and you said work was just a phase. I was lonely. Lonely, the irony made the corners of my mouth twitch for a second, pressed together in the same bed, eating at the same table, living in the same space, both of us apparently alone. What's his name? I asked. She hesitated. Ethan, she said finally. A lot of messages for someone you just hate, I murmured. She shook her head quickly. I don't hate him. I didn't know what I felt. He was just attention at first, then it went too far. Way too far. I should have stopped it. I know that. I hate myself. The thing is, part of me believed her. People don't usually wake up planning to ruin everything. They just keep choosing the easier wrong thing over the harder right one until they find themselves standing in the ruins, wondering how they got there. Another part of me didn't care. Are you in love with him? I asked. She froze, her breathing hitched. Another tear slid down. She let this one fall freely. I don't know, she whispered. I thought maybe, but right now all I feel is sick. I don't want him. I don't want this. I want us, I swear. The words I swear felt like a cruel joke. I walked past her, careful not to step in the milk, and went to the kitchen. My hands needed something to do or I would scream. I grabbed paper towels, dropped to my knees, and began wiping up the mess. She watched me, chest rising and falling, arms wrapped around herself like she was cold. I ended it, she said. When? I asked without looking up. Last week. I stopped. Why? I asked. She hesitated. Because I knew I couldn't keep lying to you, because he started talking like he owned me, like he was better than you. He called himself the Alpha again, like some joke, and said you were weak for not knowing. And I saw him clearly. I saw how ugly it all was. The paper towel tore under my fingers. He's not better than you, she whispered. He never was. I threw the soaked paper towels into the trash and washed my hands slowly. The water ran clear, then clouded with milk, then clear again. Her reflection hovered beside mine in the small kitchen window, both of us layered over the gray city outside. What do you want me to do with this? I finally asked. She took a step closer, voice shaking. Give me a chance to fix it. The audacity of that sentence made something in me go very still. I turned off the tap. I need you to leave, I said quietly, her lips parted. What? For tonight, go to a friend's, your sister's, I don't care where, just not here. She took a sharp breath, like I'd knocked the wind out of her. This is my home too, she said, voice breaking. It stopped being that when you invited him into it, I replied. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Her shoulders sagged like someone had cut the strings holding her upright. I'll pack a bag, she whispered. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, pulling clothes from drawers, shoving them into a duffel. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching the life we'd built condense into handfuls of fabric and toiletries. Can I hug you? She asked, pausing beside the bed. It was the kind of request that once would have been unthinkable. Hugging used to be automatic, a reflex. Now it was a negotiation. No, I said, her face crumpled. Okay, she breathed, okay. She walked past me, bag over her shoulder, eyes on the floor. At the door she stopped. I love you, she said softly. I don't know what that means coming from you anymore, I replied. She shut her eyes. 1, 2, 3 seconds, then she opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. The click of the door closing echoed in the apartment, louder than it should have been. Final, even though nothing was decided yet. Then there was just quiet. No footsteps, no soft music from her phone, no rustle of her moving from room to room, just the hum of the fridge, the distant traffic, and the rain easing into a faint drizzle. The emptiness of the apartment was a different kind of emptiness now, not distance, absence. That night sleep never came. I lay on the bed with my eyes open, staring at the faint cracks in the ceiling. The imprint of her body still marked the mattress beside me, a slight dip where she'd always slept. The sheets smelled like her shampoo. My mind replayed everything, the messages, the hotel timestamps. The word passive, his smug alpha nonsense, her tears, her plea. Around 3 in the morning I got up and made coffee just for something to hold. The kitchen felt unfamiliar in the dark. I didn't turn on the main light, just the small one above the stove. The coffee machine gurgled and hissed. Outside, the world was a blur of faint light and wet streets. I sat at the table, mug between my hands, and opened her laptop again. If pain has a flavor, it's the metallic taste of knowing you're about to hurt yourself on purpose. I scrolled, messages about weekends he couldn't wait to steal, pictures of the city view from their hotel room. Voice notes where his tone was casual, entitled like he was talking about something he already owned. One message stood out. If he was a real man, he'd have seen this coming, but he's not. He's soft, I'm the alpha here. I take what I want. She had responded, don't say that, he's kind, he's just withdrawn lately, he works so hard. He'd replied, that's what losers say when they're losing their woman. You deserve someone who makes you feel alive. Who fights for you? I stared at those words until they blurred. Something inside me shifted then. The grief didn't disappear, but it made space next to something else. Not rage exactly, not the loud, explosive kind. A quieter, colder resolve. He thought kindness was weakness. He thought trust was passivity. He thought he could take what he wanted and walk away untouched. I closed the laptop carefully and pushed it aside. The sky outside was lightening slightly, that pre-dawn gray where everything looks like an old photograph. The city felt like it was holding its breath. I took out my phone, found his name. He'd been sloppy. One of the messages she'd left open had his number. Ethan, consultant. Arrogant enough to use his real contact details for an affair. Arrogant enough to assume no one would confront him. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long moment, then I started typing. We need to talk, man to man. I added the photo he'd sent of the view from the hotel bed. My bed, our city at night. The timestamp matching the night she said she'd been working late. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. my place. Then I hit send. The message ticked from sent to delivered, then seconds later to seen. A single typing bubble appeared, then his reply, guess you finally woke up, fine, I'll come. Someone has to be the alpha in this situation. I stared at those words, a strange calm settling over me. The rain had stopped completely now. The city outside was still dark, but a faint line of pale light pressed against the horizon, promising morning. The night had taken enough from me. The next evening I would start taking something back. He arrived on time. Arrogant men usually do. Punctuality looks like confidence when you've convinced yourself the world bends around you. At 7:58 p.m. the buzzer rang. Outside, the sky was bruised purple, the street glistening from another round of rain that had come and gone without asking permission. The apartment was dim, lit only by the floor lamp in the corner and the faint light from the kitchen. I pressed the intercom. Yeah. It's Ethan, a voice said, smooth, deeper than I expected. The kind of voice that sounds good in presentations and bad in apologies. I buzzed him in. His footsteps echoed up the stairwell a minute later, calm, unhurried, like he was walking into a negotiation he'd already decided he would win. The knock on the door was firm, 3 quick raps. I opened it. He was taller than me, but not by much. Clean-cut, expensive coat, hair styled with the kind of precision that comes from either a very good barber or a very fragile ego. He smelled like the cologne I'd caught on her clothes, sharp, musky, lingering. His eyes flicked over me, assessing, the way men do when they're trying to measure another man's threat level. So, he said, lips curling into a half-smirk. You're him. You must be the alpha, I replied. The smirk faltered for half a second. He stepped inside without waiting to be invited. His gaze swept the apartment quickly, a subtle inventory, furniture, decor, the life he'd been cutting into. Nice place, he said, smaller than I imagined. Evaluating, judging, positioning, I closed the door gently. Shoes off, I said. He looked at me, surprised, then at the no-shoe mat by the door. It was such an ordinary request that it seemed to throw him off. You're serious? He asked, house rule. He hesitated, then shrugged and kicked off his shoes. His socks were pristine white, clean, unscuffed. He carried himself like someone who didn't expect to get dirty. Want a drink? I asked. He raised an eyebrow. You offering or testing me? You're a guest, I replied, for now. He smiled like we were sharing some private joke. Whiskey if you've got it, he said. I poured him a small glass and one for myself. The glasses clinked softly as I set his on the coffee table. He settled onto the couch, leaning back like he owned it already. I remained standing. Do you know why you're here? I asked. You sent the message, he said. You wanted to talk, and frankly, I figured it was about time. Affairs end. Your type either cries, threatens, or begs. Might as well get it over with. He took a sip of the whiskey, barely flinching. My type. What type is that? I asked. He gestured vaguely at me. Soft, nice guy. Thought paying the bills and saying love you on autopilot would keep her forever. Then acts shocked when she wants something more. His word choice lingered in the air. And you're more? I asked. He smiled, leaning forward. I'm direct, he said. I know what I want and I take it. I don't sit around hoping people will read my mind. That's why she came to me. You left a vacuum, I filled it. He said it almost casually, like he was explaining market share. I watched him quietly, letting the silence stretch. It made him fidget just a little. He tapped his fingers on his knee, glanced around again. Do you love her? I asked. He shrugged. Love is a tricky word. We had chemistry, energy. She was drawn to me and I to her. Call it what you want. Would you have left if she asked you to? I pressed. Another shrug. If she'd really meant it, maybe, he said. But she didn't, not really. She liked the attention, they all do. Besides, she was never going to leave you. Too much to lose, the apartment, the stability, the history. Guys like you make great safety nets. He drank again like he was sharing business advice at a bar. Something in my chest tightened, then released. You talk a lot about what she felt, I said, but not much about what you did. He laughed once. I'm not the one who made vows, man. That was between you and her. I saw an opportunity. She walked through the door herself. He looked up at me, eyes sharp. You should be angry at her, not at me. Oh, I said softly, don't worry. This isn't about letting her off the hook. Then what is it about? He asked. I set my glass down, untouched. It's about the story you tell yourself. The one where you're the alpha. The one where you're sure you know what kind of man I am, what kind of woman she is, and where you stand over both of us. He smirked again, leaning back. Listen, he said, I get that you're hurt, but this is just how it goes. Some men lead, some follow. Some keep their women engaged, some let them get bored. You play passive long enough, someone like me walks in. It's nature. Nature. You ever been cheated on, Ethan? I asked. He scoffed. No. Ever been left? He smiled. I do the leaving. The front door clicked. Both of us turned. She stepped inside, eyes immediately darting between us. She froze when she saw him on the couch, her face drained of color. What are you doing here? She whispered. Her bag slipped down her shoulder slightly. Her keys rattled in her shaking hand. You invited her? Ethan asked, a hint of annoyance in his voice. I told her to come home at 8, I said. Figured it was time all three of us were in the same room. The air in the apartment shifted. He straightened slightly. She took a step back toward the door as if contemplating flight. No, she said, voice cracking. No, this isn't. What are you doing? Relax, Ethan said with a little laugh. We're just clearing the air. He needed to meet the better man, apparently. Her eyes filled instantly. Stop, she whispered. Stop calling yourself that. He glanced at her, surprised. Excuse me. She stepped in fully, closing the door behind her. Her shoulders squared even as her hands trembled. You're not better than him, she said. You never were. The words hung between us. He blinked, the easy arrogance on his face faltering. This your new script, he scoffed. Now that you're caught, you flip it. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were red-rimmed, makeup slightly smudged, hair pulled back without care. She looked smaller somehow, like the last few days had shaved something off her. I'm so sorry, she said to me. You shouldn't have to do this. You shouldn't have to see him again. Yet here we are, I replied quietly. She turned back to Ethan. You should leave, she said. He raised his eyebrows. You dragging me here just to send me out. I didn't drag you, she said. He did this. And if you had any decency at all, you'd walk out that door and never contact me again. He laughed, but it sounded thinner now. Decency, he repeated. You're going to lecture me about decency. She flinched but held her ground. Yes, she said softly, because I've seen what it looks like now. I had it and I threw it away for this. She gestured at him. The apartment, the distance between us three, his jaw tightened. So now I'm the villain, he asked. You were always the villain, I said quietly. You just convinced yourself you were the main character. He turned toward me, irritation flashing across his face. Look, he said, voice sharpening. You can project all you want, but at the end of the day, she chose me. She came to me. She texted me. She slept with me not once, not twice, many times. You didn't lose her because I'm some master manipulator. You lost her because you weren't enough. The words were aimed to wound, a practiced cruelty. They landed. Of course they did, but pain doesn't always do what people expect. I was not enough for who she was when she was with you, I said. That's true. He smirked, taking it as a win. But there's something you don't understand, I continued. You never had her, not really. You had the broken pieces of her she was willing to give away. You had the parts she was hiding. I had the rest, the bills, the history, the bad days, the quiet mornings, the version of her who used to sit on this couch with me and plan a future. I took a breath. And I'm the one who gets to decide now what she's worth to me. Not you, not your ego, not your alpha story. He rolled his eyes, but he shifted in his seat. This some moral high ground speech, he said. You going to forgive her and thank me for making your marriage stronger? No, I said softly. I'm not forgiving anyone today. That surprised both of them. She looked at me sharply. Then, what are you doing? I turned to her. I invited him here, I said, because I wanted him to see something he doesn't believe exists. A man who can be angry and still controlled, hurt and still measured. Someone who can look the person who helped break his life in the eye and not become him in the process. I faced Ethan again. You're not an alpha, I said. You're just loud. You mistake volume for strength, arrogance for confidence, taking what doesn't belong to you for power. He scoffed. Spare me the therapy talk. You called me passive, I continued. Soft, a safety net. You thought I'd either collapse or explode, cry or swing. You were ready for that. You planned for that. You probably even rehearsed your lines. He said nothing, jaw clenched now. You weren't ready for this, I said. For me to ask you to sit here in my home, where you planned your little escapades and feel every inch of the discomfort you've earned. For you to see her regret. For you to face the fact that you're not a storm that blew through our lives. You're just a bad decision that's going to fade. Someone will both outgrow. The room was very quiet. Even the refrigerator seemed to hush. He shifted, leaning forward, putting the glass down a bit too forcefully. You done? He asked, voice tight. Almost, I said. I took out my phone and opened the voice recorder, pressed play. His own words filled the room. I'm the alpha, I take what I want. If he was a real man, he'd have seen this coming. That's what losers say. You deserve someone who makes you feel alive. Guys like you make great safety nets. His face drained of color. Where did you? She kept everything, I said. Screenshots, voice notes. I thought about deleting them, burning it all down, but then I realized something. Your words are your mirror. I stopped the recording. Your company might find this attitude interesting, I said calmly. Your HR department, your wife, if you ever end up having one, you walk around so sure of yourself, so certain you're untouchable. But you're not. None of us are. He swallowed hard. You threatening me? He asked quietly. No, I said. I'm giving you a choice. You walk away completely. No messages, no calls, no lingering orbit. You stay out of her life and out of mine. You leave this city if you can, transfer, new job, whatever. Or this story doesn't stay a story between three people. It becomes something much bigger. His breathing quickened. The alpha was slipping. The man underneath was showing now. The one who still had something to lose. You wouldn't, he said. You already underestimated what I would do, I replied. Don't make that mistake twice. He looked at her then, searching for backup. She shook her head slowly. Go, she whispered. Please, just go. He stared at her, waiting maybe for her to soften, to beg him to stay, to choose him here in front of me. She didn't. The silence stretched. The city outside hummed on, indifferent. Finally, he stood. You two deserve each other, he said, bitterness dripping from every word. Maybe we do, I said, but you don't get to be part of that equation anymore. He grabbed his shoes, shoved his feet into them without sitting. His fingers, fumbling slightly, gave away the tremor he was trying to hide. At the door he paused, turning back toward me. You're still weak, he said, but his voice lacked the easy certainty from before. You think this makes you strong. Playing moral police, you'll see. She'll do it again. People don't change. He looked at her in one last, almost pleading second. Tell him, he said. Tell him how much you wanted me. Her jaw trembled. I wanted to escape myself, she said softly. You were just there. His eyes flashed hurt anger, bruised ego all at once. Then he left. The door closed behind him with a dull, almost gentle thud. The apartment fell into deep, heavy quiet, just the two of us again. She let out a breath that sounded like it was tearing its way out of her chest. That was, she began. Necessary, I finished. She nodded weakly, wiping at her face. Thank you, she whispered. For what? I asked. For not becoming him, she said. For not breaking. Her gratitude sat uneasily on my shoulders. Don't thank me yet, I replied. We're not done. She looked up, eyes wide and afraid. What happens now? She asked. I looked around the apartment, the worn couch, the half-burnt candle, the faint coffee stain on the table, the shadows in the corners, the life we'd built and the cracks running through it. What happens now? The answer flickered at the edge of my mind, fragile and distant, like morning light still trapped behind the horizon. I don't know, I said quietly. I walked to the window and looked out at the city, its lights blinking, streets slick, people moving like tiny streaks of motion far below. Behind me, she stood in the middle of the living room, as if the floor might open up beneath her if she moved. Between us, there was no shouting, no dramatic collapse, just two people standing in the ruins of something they'd both taken for granted. The night wrapped around the building, thick and dark. For the first time in days, there were no messages, no third voice between us, just the quiet and the question hanging in the air, whether the end of him meant a second chance for us. Or the beginning of our own ending. Morning always comes, even when you don't want it to. After he left, the night stretched on in a gray, tired way. She slept on the couch by her own insistence, curled into herself like a question mark. I lay in our bed, staring at the empty space where she used to be. The hum of the city softened around 3, as if the entire world exhaled at once. Somewhere after that, without remembering when, my eyes finally closed. When I woke, the light was different, not harsh, not dramatic, just a soft, muted brightness seeping in around the edges of the curtains, painting the room in pale, forgiving tones. The kind of light that makes things look more honest than beautiful. Birds chirped faintly outside, hidden in the sparse trees lining the street. Cars rolled by at a slower, less frantic pace than usual. It was a weekday, but the world felt like it was moving at half speed. I sat up slowly. Her side of the bed, still untouched, looked like an old photograph. The faint indentation where her body used to settle had almost smoothed out during the night. One of her hairs lay on the pillow, thin, dark, looping in a pattern that once would have felt intimate. Now it just felt like an echo. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. I walked out to the living room. She was awake, sitting at the dining table with a mug of coffee she wasn't drinking. The dark circles under her eyes were deeper. Her hair was pulled back in a messy tie. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. The faint smell of coffee and rain drifted through the open window. The floor was cold under my feet. "Hey," she said softly. "Morning," I replied. The word felt strange. As if saying morning implied a fresh start, and I wasn't sure we had one. "I made you a cup," she said, nodding toward the counter. Steam curled gently from a mug waiting beside the coffee machine. "Thanks," I said. We moved around each other carefully, like strangers sharing a kitchen in an Airbnb. Small, polite, not touching. I took the mug and sat across from her at the table. The chair creaked under my weight. The same creak I'd heard 1,000 times before. It sounded different now. "I asked my sister if I can stay with her for a while," she said quietly. I nodded slowly. "She said yes," she added, as if it needed clarification. "Good," I said. She swallowed, fingers tracing the rim of her mug. "I didn't want to leave without talking," she said. Really talking, not like last night, not with him here, just us. Just us, the phrase used to mean safety. Now it felt like stepping into a room with all the lights on, nowhere to hide. "Okay," I said. She took a breath, steadying herself. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she began, "and I know you have every right to hate me. To walk away, to never look back. If you do, I won't blame you." Her eyes shimmered, but she blinked the tears back, not out of pride, but out of respect, like she didn't want to use them as currency. "I lost sight of who I was," she continued. "I was hurt and tired and resentful, and instead of facing that with you, I ran away from it with him. I let myself believe lies because they were easier than hard conversations. I betrayed you, I betrayed myself." She looked down at her hands. "I miss the version of me that existed before I did this," she whispered. For a moment, the anger in me loosened its grip. Because beneath everything she'd done, there was something painfully human, a person who made terrible choices trying to fix an ache she didn't understand. "What do you want from me?" I asked gently. She looked up slowly. "Honestly," she said, "I want impossible things. I want you to tell me we can fix this. That one day it'll just be a story we overcame. That you'll hold me and I'll feel safe again and you'll feel safe with me. That this won't define us." She took a shuddering breath, "But I know that's not fair to ask, so instead I'm asking for something smaller. I'm asking you to let me try to become someone you could forgive, even if you never take me back. Even if your forgiveness is something quiet you keep to yourself one day, years from now." Her voice softened. "I don't want to be this person," she said. "The woman who did this to the man who loved her. I can't undo it. But I can spend the rest of my life making sure I never do it again. To anyone." The morning light caught the edge of her jaw, the curve of her cheek, the hollow under her eyes. This was a different woman from the one who had laughed about the office alpha in our kitchen months ago. Broken in some places, sharper in others, honest finally. "Do you still love me?" she asked. The question hung heavy between us. I thought about saying no. It would have been simpler, cleaner, an easier wound to dress, but lies had gotten us here. "I do," I said, her lips parted, hope flickering in her eyes. "But it's not the same," I added. The hope dimmed but didn't disappear entirely. "It's like," I searched for the words, "it's like loving a house that burned down. You remember every room, every picture on the wall where the sunlight used to fall in the afternoons. You can still see it, still feel it. But when you go back, it's just ashes and smoke. The love is real, so is the loss." Tears slid down her cheeks silently. "Can we rebuild?" she whispered. I sat with the question. The city hummed softly outside. A bus passed, brakes sighing as it pulled away from a stop. Somewhere someone laughed, somewhere else someone shouted. Life went on, indifferent to mine. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't trust you. And I don't trust myself with you, not yet, maybe not for a long time, maybe not ever. Right now, every time I look at you, I see him, hear his words. Alpha, safety net, loser. I don't want to, but I do." She nodded, accepting it like a sentence she'd been expecting. "I don't want to punish you," I continued. "I don't want to stay and make you pay for what you did every day. That's not love, that's cruelty, and I'm tired of cruelty. Yours, his, mine, the world's. I'm just tired." A small sob escaped her. "So what are you saying?" she asked. "I'm saying that the kindest thing I can do for both of us right now is let go," I said softly. "Not because I don't care, but because I care too much to keep dragging us through this." She shook her head weakly. "We can go to therapy. We can take time apart and then try again. We can. We can do a lot of things," I said gently. "And some couples do survive this, some even come out stronger, but you chose him for 6 months, repeatedly, not once, not in a moment of drunken weakness. You built a second life and visited it over and over. You introduced him to the parts of you that were mine. I can't unknow that." Her hands covered her face as she cried. The sound wasn't loud. It was broken, fragile. The sound of someone realizing they'd finally run out of second chances. "I forgive you," I said quietly. Her hands dropped. She stared at me, eyes wide, red, disbelieving. "What?" she whispered. "I forgive you," I repeated. "Not because you deserve it right now. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But because I need to let this go before it poisons what's left of me. I don't want to live the rest of my life defined by what you and he did. I don't want to become him in reverse, arrogant in my pain instead of my ego." A tear slid down my cheek. I hadn't felt it coming. "I forgive you," I said again, voice cracking this time, "but I can't stay with you." The words broke something loose in both of us. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, hands pressed to her forehead. "Please," she whispered, "please don't say that. Please don't end it like this." "If I stayed," I said, "every late text would be a trigger, every work trip an accusation. Every time you smiled at your phone, I'd die a little inside. I'd become someone who monitors, checks, doubts. I'd become a guard instead of a partner. I refuse to be that man." I took a shaky breath. "And you'd live under a microscope," I continued. "No matter how honest you were, how hard you tried, you'd feel watched, measured, weighed. You'd resent me, you'd resent yourself. That's not a marriage, that's a sentence." Her shoulders shook, tears dripped onto the table. "So that's it?" she asked hoarsely. "We just end?" I looked at her, at the woman who had once been my safe place and had become my deepest wound. "No," I said softly, "we don't end. We change shape." She frowned through her tears, confused. "You'll go to your sister's," I said. "I'll stay here for now. We'll divide things fairly. No war, no drama, no revenge. Just two people admitting they broke something they can't fix together." I swallowed hard. "One day," I added, "you'll drink coffee in a kitchen somewhere and not think of me first. One day I'll hear a song we used to love and it'll hurt less than it does now. One day we'll be strangers again, but with a shared past instead of shared furniture." She stared at me as if trying to memorize my face. "I don't want that," she whispered. "I don't either," I said, "but life doesn't always care what we want." The morning light brightened slightly, touching the edge of the table, climbing slowly onto her hands, her face. "I meant it," she said suddenly, "when I said you're not weak." I looked at her. "You're the strongest person I've ever known," she whispered. "Not because you did all this, not because you made him leave, but because you're choosing not to let this destroy you. I don't know how to do that yet. I hope I learn." Her words didn't feel like flattery. They felt like a eulogy. We sat in silence for a long time. Outside, traffic picked up. A delivery truck beeped as it backed up. A neighbor's door slammed. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed too loudly at something on their phone. Normal life, unaware of the small, quiet ending happening in our kitchen. Finally, she stood. "I'll pack a few things," she said. "The rest we can sort out later." I nodded. She walked to the bedroom slowly, each step an echo of the life we'd shared. I stayed at the table, hands wrapped around the cooling mug of coffee. I heard drawers open, the soft rustle of clothes, the small thud of suitcase wheels on the floor. Every sound was a timestamp on our last morning together. When she came back out, she stood by the door with her bag. Her eyes were swollen but clear. She looked around the apartment once, as if committing it to memory. The dent in the couch cushion, the crooked picture on the wall we never fixed, the plant she kept forgetting to water. The candle in the middle of the table burned halfway down. She set her bag down and walked over to it. With a shaky hand, she picked up the lighter and lit the wick. The small flame flickered, then steadied. We both watched it. "In another life," she said quietly, still looking at the candle, "I hope I choose you better, love you better, deserve you better." She turned to me. Can I hug you goodbye?" she asked. The question sat between us, fragile. Every part of me screamed for it and against it at the same time. "Yes," I said. She stepped forward slowly, as if afraid I'd change my mind. When her arms wrapped around me, it felt like hugging a memory. Her body shook with quiet sobs. I held her, not like a husband clinging to what he had, but like someone gently releasing something he once treasured. "I'm sorry," she whispered against my shoulder, "for all of it, for every message. Every lie, every time I came home smelling like him. I'm so sorry." "I know," I said softly. "I'm sorry too, for not seeing you, for not listening sooner, for my part in the distance that gave him space." We stayed like that for a moment that stretched out in both directions, back into our past, forward into the futures where we would no longer belong to each other. Then slowly we let go. She picked up her bag. At the door she paused. "If you ever need anything," she said, "ever, for any reason, call me. Even if you never want me back, even if you hate me forever, I'll come. I owe you that much." I nodded. "Take care of yourself," I said. "Become that version of you you said you miss, the one before all this, or maybe someone even better." She swallowed hard. "You too," she whispered. Then she opened the door. Morning light spilled in from the hallway, bright and soft. It framed her for a second in a strange, quiet halo. She stepped out. The door closed behind her with a click that felt both small and final. For a long time, I didn't move. The apartment felt hollow, like a shell of something that used to be alive. The candle flickered on the table, small and stubborn, its flame dancing gently in the still air. Eventually, I walked over and sat again. The chair creaked, familiar. I watched the candle burn. Inside my chest, the hurt didn't vanish, not even close, but something else settled in beside it. Not joy, not yet, just a thin, fragile thread of relief. She was gone, he was gone, the noise was gone. It was just me, the quiet, the soft hum of the city, the morning light on the table, and the slow, steady realization that I was still here. Broken in places, yes, but not destroyed. The flame on the candle flickered once, then steadied again. Outside, the clouds shifted, allowing a little more light through. It fell across the floor, touched the empty chair opposite me, painted the room in pale gold. Empty rooms mean loneliness. They also mean space. Space to breathe, to grieve, to grow, to rebuild something new, even if that something is just yourself. I took a deep breath, held it, let it go. And for the first time since I saw those messages, since I read the word alpha and felt my world tilt, I believed that maybe one day this story wouldn't just be about betrayal. It would be about what came after. About the man who refused to let someone else's arrogance define his worth. About the quiet, steady strength of letting go before the bitterness had a chance to harden. The candle burned on, the city woke up. And in the soft morning light, alone at the small table in our too-quiet apartment, I started to learn how to be okay without her. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. Alone at the small table in our too-quiet apartment, I started to learn how to be okay without her. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday.